in my ear.
Yeah.
So, okay.
Okay. Now we're
Now
live
I can.
stream, so now I can share.
Okay. Yeah. There we go.
Here
It's
we go.
popping up. So yeah, in honor of our speaker today, who lives and resides and grew up and works from Luke County, just tell us maybe some answers to the questions on your screen. You can use your chat box or open your microphone. It would be fun to have some interaction verbally. And we will get started promptly at 2 today. So if you don't know about the villagers, you're missing out. There are some on your screen, but tell us what you might know or what you might want to know about the villagers that reside in Luke County. And maybe we'll put our speaker to the test today. I will tell you that they're life size, give you a little bit of a hint. Megan, you may have to tell us a little bit about the villagers.
Bad is it that I've been through there multiple times and never noticed them.
Oh, really? Oh, gosh.
But years ago, probably not recent. So
Okay. Well, Beverly Hanson, thanks, Bev, for your response. She does know about them, and it's so neat to meet all of them, she says. So, yeah, my understanding is there's like a map or something that tells you where they are all located. So I'm almost like the person who says there's cows every time you drive by a field of cows. Every time I go north and I see a villager, I'm going, there's a villager to my husband or to my family. So Miranda
Miranda would
wants
like
to,
to know what
yeah,
started the project and what the purpose is.
yeah. Megan, do you want to give us a quick 30-second blurb about the villagers here as you start?
Sure. So the
Yeah.
villagers are made by a local artist named Mara Santos. Uh, Not to be confused with Mari Sandos, the famous Nebraska author, but she is related to Mari Sandos. So Mara Sandos lives in Taylor, Nebraska. She also has a little shop called Mara's Treasures, and her goal at the beginning was to just bring our community more awareness and get people talking about the community. And now she has a goal of making as many villagers as there are people in Taylor. So she wants to double the size of our population with her villagers, and she is well on her way. They're awesome.
Neat. Yeah. So there is one on every corner or every side of Luke County, is my understanding. There's over 100 of them, I believe. So you see them coming and going and traveling all around Luke County. And some of them are actually based on historical figures, is my understanding as well. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes, many
Yeah.
of the villagers are actually real people that used to live in Luke County. Many of them are deceased now, but live on. Their spirit lives on in the villagers. So that's kind of a really neat thing. And you can make them of people that are still alive. We had one, a custom order for my dad and his beloved dog, Walter. And we have it
Oh,
on the edge of our ranch, and everybody, you can tell exactly who it is. It looks just like my dad and his his dog, Walter.
yeah. The detail is incredible on the villagers that I've seen going through there. It's just fascinating. So, but if you haven't been to Luke County, check out the villagers next trip you go and make it a trip. up there. You won't be disappointed. So it is just after 2 o'clock, and I know our presenter has a lot of great information to share. So I'd like to go ahead and get started and just say welcome to all of you who have joined us. This is our September HomeNE webinar, and I am Lori Ferguson. I'm with South Central Economic Development District. We serve as the lead agent for the HomeNE Learning Network. HomeNE is an established network that is dedicated to bringing together local leaders and people who are passionate about housing. We recognize the immense housing challenges in our rural communities, and by providing face-to-face as well as online opportunities, HomeNE helps to foster interaction, engagement, and skill building to help individuals successfully address their community's local housing challenges and hopefully to bring solutions to those challenges. Today, we are joined by Megan Helberg. She is a former teacher at Loup County Public Schools, and we first got acquainted or connected back last spring when she was teaching. She is a native to Loup County and Taylor. She's an alum of Loup County Public Schools. I'm going to tell her or have her tell you a little bit more about that in a moment. But last spring, when I reached out to her, it was because I'd heard about Megan facilitating a survey of her high school students about the perks and the challenges of their community, and asking questions about would they come back, what would they need to have, just a lot of great stuff coming out of her classroom. So I loved reading about it then, and I'm really excited to hear more about it today. But since we confirmed her as a speaker, she's taken a different career path, which equally interests me and excites me, and she's going to share a little bit of that as well. So Megan, would you be so kind to introduce yourself and just give us a little bit of a background about what you're up to now, as well as just yourself in general?
Sure. Hello, everyone. Thank you for having me. This is really exciting. It's always a great day when you get to talk about rural Nebraska and keeping Nebraska strong. So my name is Megan Helberg. I'm born and raised here in rural Loup County. I live just about 5 miles west of the Calamus Lake, if any of you have ever been to the Calamus Lake. I went to school at Loup County Public School from kindergarten through 12th grade. My mom was a teacher there, and I had her for 6 years. Then I went on to become a teacher. I taught in Burwell, actually, for the majority of my career, which is the neighboring town. I taught there for 12 years. I was an English teacher, volleyball coach, really loved it, had a great experience. But then the English position came open in my home high school, and it was just too good to pass up. So I came back to Loup County and did the last 3 years in Loup County as an English teacher and the speech coach. Loved it. I love rural small schools. You really get to be a part of the community, and the school is a part of the community, and the community is a part of the school. And then this last spring, I was offered my dream job, I guess you could say. I am a passionate Holocaust and genocide educator. That is my area of expertise and passion. And the Anne Frank House sought me out and offered me a job to work for the Anne Frank House. So I said, "Whoa, is this for real?" And they said, "Yes." And I said, "Well, I would love to, but I don't want to move. I love my home, and this is my home." And they said, "You don't have to move." And I said, "Okay, let's talk." So we talked, and now I've been there for a couple months, and I'm still kind of getting my feet underneath of me, doing a lot of traveling around the entire country and helping schools implement quality Holocaust education that has been heavily vetted, of course, which is very important in today's times, and helping them broach the difficult subject of the Holocaust, beginning with the story of Anne Frank and her family.
That's amazing, Megan. Just give us a brief glimpse at what Loup County Public Schools is like. How many students?
So Loup County Public Schools is small. It's D2, so it's in the smallest class of schools in Nebraska. We still have our own kindergarten through 12th grade school, and I have to amend that. We have a new preschool and now a daycare that is attached to the school. So that has been a huge improvement for our small community. We can fit 12 kids now in the early childhood center or the daycare facility, and it's right in the school. So it makes it really nice transition for the kids from the early childhood center to daycare, then in or daycare, preschool, and then on into school. My graduating class was 10 kids. The last year's graduating class was 6. We have gone up and down, but I would proud to say that we are on an upward trend. We have more kids enrolling, we have more families moving back. It's really exciting to see the class sizes grow. Now, we don't ever want to get too big because we can't handle too many kids, but if we could handle a healthy 10 to 12 kids per class, that is right what we're made for. And that means our community is healthy and thriving and kind of right where we want it to be. I think it's important to note, I'm kind of getting ahead of myself, but when we say we want Nebraska and especially rural Nebraska to thrive, sometimes people get scared and think, well, we can't handle too many people and we don't want so many people moving in. Well, we're in Taylor, Nebraska. Spoiler alert, is never going to be a major metropolis or city. And we know that. And that's not what we want to be. But could we use an extra 100 to 200 people in our county? Absolutely, we could. And our county and town is meant to handle that much. So just think that's important when you're talking to people about growth in your community, that you understand that you're never going to be a metropolis and you don't want that. And that's okay.
Okay, great. One more question before I let you start with your presentation, but in one of our previous conversations, you mentioned that the Holocaust and genocide education go right along with community building. And I had to pause and process that statement. But for the people who have joined us today, could you elaborate on that statement and tie that together for us? And then I'll let you start with your presentation.
Sure. So, yes, I think many people might have the same reaction as you did, Lori, at the beginning that, wait, community building and Holocaust education go together. But if you really think about it, they are clearly linked, and we can have many lessons for ourselves today. The Holocaust involved a very systematic, organized approach to turning people in that were not like you, that were the other, that were different. And the Nazis, of course, were in charge of this, but they didn't do it all themselves. They couldn't have. They just couldn't have done this all by themselves. They needed local collaborators and helpers to help them carry out what they did. So, unfortunately, we see many cases of neighbors turning in neighbors. We see employers turning in employees, or vice versa. We see students turning in teachers. We see teachers turning in students. So we have to ask ourselves, oh my goodness, where there was a breakdown, not just in government, but also at the community level. And so we kind of hopefully will never experience something as extreme as that. But I think it's an important thing to keep in the back of our minds that when we are talking about community building and strengthening communities, we really need to know our neighbors first, because then you're not being some hero like the people that did help. We call them righteous among the nations. It's a official title of people who helped Jews hide and escape during the Holocaust. But they weren't heroes. They said, well, they were my neighbors, they were my friends, or they were my coworkers. I'd worked with them for 20 years. So when you get to know people, the more you're not being a hero, you're not doing something outstanding, you're just taking care of your friend. We've always heard the quote that it's hard to hate up close. And I know that's very cliche, but I do think it's very true. And so when you have the new family that moves in, maybe they don't look like you, um, But I always tell people too with Taylor, we can't be too picky and choosy about who's moving into our community. We need to be, if we're going to say that we're welcoming, we actually need to be welcoming. And the more that we treat those people with respect, newcomers, no matter where they're from or their background, the more likely they are to treat us back that same way. If someone moves in and we treat them pretty poorly and disrespectfully and kind of always are giving them the stink eye, like we don't want them in our community, then chances are they're probably going to treat you that exact same way back. So it really, I think, opens a door for welcoming and belonging, and community building goes hand in hand with Holocaust education, and how we really rely on strong communities and neighborhoods and workplaces to help us.
Super. Thank you for that. Great thoughts there that we should all consider. So we're going to let Megan have control of our screen, and she's going to take over and make her presentation. So feel free to, if you have questions for Megan, enter those in the chat box, and we'll present those to her at the conclusion of her presentation. So Megan, go ahead.
Okay, I just want to make sure. Can you guys see that opening slide, the looking for the good? Okay, awesome. Well, thank you all for having me here. I have kind of adopted this motto for my life of looking for the good. And if we look for the good when we are adults, then we need, it's important that we model that behavior for attracting and retaining youth in our communities. So it's important. So this is just a little glimpse of where I live. This is our family's ranch here in the Sandhills of Nebraska. In my opinion, it's not too hard to look for the good here. I was just checking pastures this morning, and cows are happy. There's still a lot of grass. The tanks are full. Everything is great. So this is home for me, Loup County. I want to point out just one little thing. You guys are all community builders. I'm preaching to the choir here. But some things that I've learned over the years that I've found very helpful. I always used to just say, yeah, I'm from Taylor, Nebraska, but I live in the country. And so those of you that live in the country or you don't live necessarily in town, it's okay to give your county some credit too sometimes. So I love Taylor very, very much and consider it my home, but Loup County is also my home. So it's okay to kind of rephrase how you introduce yourself and where you're from. So today, I basically have three main points that I want to hit on for you guys here today. And that is, first, I'm a returner. I don't know how many of you on the call are returners to your communities. Maybe that means you grew up in your community, then you left for a job or college or whatever else for a while, and then you decided to return. So I'm a returner. So I'll start with that. Then I'm going to go over my kind of three main points. I should point out that I am a proud member. I'm on the board of directors for the Nebraska Community Foundation. And that's been instrumental in helping me help my home. And more importantly, I am the chairperson of our local community fund. It's called the Calamus Area Community Fund, and it covers the area of both Garfield County, where Burwell is, and Loup County, where Taylor is, and of course, the Calamus Lake. So we are really moving and grooving right now, and it feels really fun. It feels fun to be a part of this community, and I hope you can say the same about yours. So we're going to talk about ABCD. I was a teacher for 15 years. We got to get in our alphabet here. And ABCD, maybe some of you have heard of it. It's called asset-based community development. And this is where you are focusing on the assets that your community has rather than the deficits in your community. And we will get more into that in a second. The second main point is inviting youth to be a part of decision making. I'll talk about a dreaming event that we had in our community, a youth survey, getting your school and teachers involved, and both successes and duds, because, every story has a few of both. And finally, youth must see and hear adults enjoying their lives in rural Nebraska. So I'm going to leave you with, hopefully that doesn't take too much work for you all, is to have fun and live your best life in your community so the youth can see that. So they can see that you aren't forced to live where you live, that actually you choose to be rural, you choose to live in your community, and you can have fun there while also having a job, having a place to live, having safety. Play and fun is also really important. Okay, so this is little Megan. This is my returner story here. My returner story is what do you want to be when you grow up? Oh, I said anything except a teacher. My mom was a highly decorated teacher. Uh, Her name is Sue McNeil, and she taught at Luke County Public Schools for 25 years, social studies, and she was fantastic. And she was doing project-based learning before it was even a thing. They got new playground equipment for the school. They did a whole new park in our uptown square. One of her classes, she helped them, they got street signs for our town. We never had street signs before. uh, we developed a flag for Loop County. So she is kind of my role model of how I got involved in community development and realizing that even as a kid, I have a voice. I can play a part in this. So anyway, spoiler alert, I became a teacher. This is my classroom in Burwell. Like I said, you guys have heard this part. I was a teacher for 15 years. I absolutely loved it. I would say that that was my dream job for 15 years. I gave it my all. I tried to think outside the box and bring different opportunities to my students and letting them know that just because we're rural doesn't mean we are any less deserving of opportunities, experiences, and adventures, but it's up to us to take them and run with them. So I provided those for my students. My mom and I are the only parent child duo to both receive the Teacher of the Year award. My mom was the Teacher of the Year for Nebraska, and then 25 years later, I was the Teacher of the Year for Nebraska. And so that has been something kind of special that we share. And it's opened up a lot of opportunities for me, which then opened up a lot of opportunities for my students, my school, and my community. I always say, if you have something cool happen, don't keep it to yourself. Try to share it and look behind you and grab the person's hand and pull them up with you instead of turning around and shoving them down. Turn around and grab their hand and pull them up with you. So I now work for the Anne Frank House. I have traveled extensively throughout our wonderful world. I have been to 6 continents. I only have Antarctica left to go, and that's hopefully coming up not this winter, but next winter. And I am working for the Anne Frank House. This is the picture here that says Anne Frank House. That's the actual Anne Frank House in Amsterdam, where the Frank family hid for just over 2 years before they were discovered. And then this is the American Anne Frank Center. It's in Columbia, South Carolina. So the team that I work with, they work from this brick building here in Columbia. And it's been a wonderful experience so far. And I never thought I would be one of those people that worked from home or never really thought about it that much. But this has really made me think even more about attracting and retaining youth and how I am literally been able to do 2 of my dream jobs right here from Loup County. So my dad is a rancher, longtime rancher in Loup County. He's a heart transplant recipient, longest heart transplant recipient in the state of Nebraska. He's 88 years old and still doing some ranching. So that's my plug to be an organ and tissue donor. And he's doing very well. So that's my returner story. I'm able to help on the ranch, do what I love, and still be a part of my community. That's the trifecta for me. Okay, so point number 1, looking for the good on attracting and retaining youth. What I would suggest, if we're doing practical things here for you and your community, your workplace, maybe you're a teacher, I don't know, with your coworkers, your family even, is do the ABCD. Do the asset-based community development activity. Gather a group of community members across all ages and ask them to identify assets in the community. Actually, write them down. And remember that assets can be people, assets can be places, and assets can be things. And of course, obviously, there's going to be some big ones that come to mind. Like, for example, in Burwell, we have Nebraska's big rodeo, right? I mean, I'm guessing many of you on the call have maybe been to the rodeo or the Calamus Lake. Like, obviously, those are assets for us, and we want those to be at the top of the list. But we also want you to think about the really little things that may often get overlooked. I love to tell this story about Valley County in Ord. If any of you have been there, they have a rich history of accordion players. And now most people would be like, oh, yeah, okay, accordion players. But there's not a lot of communities that can say that anymore, where there's a group of 5 or 6 people that get together and sit down and play accordions together. Some of them are older, some of them are younger, and they're carrying on these traditions from generations past. That is an asset. So we're talking stuff like that. In Loop County, we have Harrop Park. I know most of you don't have your screens on, but give a shout out if you've been to Harrop Park or put it in the chat. Harrop Park is located right here in Loop County. It's in the northern part of our county, right on Highway 183. It is the only public park that is in the Sandhills that you can actually go out and walk in the Sandhills. Many people want to come to the Sandhills and see it and explore it and experience it, but it's all privately owned. So Harrop Park is pretty awesome. It has a little trail and it has plant identifiers and it has some signs about how did the sandhills form and who is here now. It has a little picnic area. It has a bathroom. It has an old-timey well that you can pump. So I would highly recommend that you come out to Harrop Park the next time you're on 183. Plan an extra 20 minutes so you can stop and walk around Harrop Park. Those are the types of assets we're talking about. Right now in your head, I hope you are thinking about the assets in your community, the ones that are overlooked. Maybe you're making a list right now. Okay, this one always gets a giggle or two. Maybe you've been to Pizza Palace. It's in Burwell, has the best pizza in the world. I'm going to stand by that. I will stand by that until I die. Okay, so but the ranch sauce at Pizza Palace is incredible. I'm not a ranch person, but when I go to Pizza Palace, I want their ranch. We have college students that the only thing they want when their parents visit them at college is a gallon of ranch. They actually sell it by the gallon because people love it so much. So I'm not sure what the secret to the sauce is. I don't need to know, but I know it's delicious. And those are things, this may sound silly, but hang with me here. When those kids are at college and they're talking about pizza with their buddies and ranch sauce, they're bringing up their hometown. They're bringing up something that they're proud of. They're bringing up something that they miss and are nostalgic about. That is an asset. So again, assets can be big or small. When you are, of course, doing this in your community, then take some time to talk amongst your group. Did you learn something new about your community? Did your mind shift when you started to uncover the hidden gems? I will tell you right away, Taylor, we lost our grocery store many years ago, probably about 15 years ago, we lost our grocery store. And if you ask about half of the community, hey, what do you wish Taylor had? They say, oh man, things started really going bad when we lost the grocery store. That was 15 years ago. We're probably not ever getting a grocery store back. Sargent is 9 miles away. They have a beautiful little grocery store. Burwell has a great grocery store that's 15 miles away. Now, it is still kind of a bummer, but that is the focus shift that we're talking about here. If you are always talking about the grocery store that we lost 15 years ago and you're focusing on that deficit, that gets replayed in the minds of youth. That's what they hear. That's what they latch on to. So then when people ask them about their community, they say, well, I wish we had a grocery store. Well, yeah, but let's shift that narrative and let's focus on our assets. Okay, that is a little bit more productive. Notice the energy in the room when you start to talk about assets. Okay, it's pretty cool. So just something that I hope you all can do either at your workplace, as a family, as a community, do some ABCD. Yeah, all right, moving on. Okay, so here are some ABCD pictures uh, that I want to talk about for Loop County. There's my dad, Tom McNeil, with his beloved dog Walter, as one of our villagers. For those of you that were on early in the call, we talked about the villagers in Taylor. They're all over Loop County. There are these wooden cutouts. A local artist by the name of Mara Sandos creates all of these. They are incredible. This looks exactly like my dad and exactly like our dog Walter. And we have this to the entrance to our home place here on the ranch. Some kids, when the villagers first started coming out, were like, oh man, that's kind of silly, or we don't really know what these are, or what's the purpose of this. Now, the villagers have literally helped put Taylor on the map. There is if you go, maybe some of you have seen it, in Denver, Minneapolis, and Kansas City, there are billboards advertising Nebraska, visit Nebraska, and the villagers are the big picture. My friend in Washington, D.C., when I was doing some work at the Holocaust Museum this summer, she came in with Smithsonian Magazine. She said, look. I was like, okay, Smithsonian Magazine, which is a pretty cool magazine, right? It's nationally distributed. She opens up a few pages, and there is a full page of the villagers from Loop County. I got so excited. My friend was from Wisconsin, and she knew right away that those were the villagers from Loop County. She said, isn't this your town? Isn't this your county? You've talked about it. I got so excited. I was jumping up and down like, yes, oh my gosh. But again, I hope you're picking up on these little things. It's how you talk about your community. When I go places and I talk to people out of state, I don't want to be, oh, little old Taylor. Oh, no, it's, have you seen the villagers? They're so cool. Look at this, right? Now, the next thing is, if any of you have any landscaping, maybe you've come across the Taylor juniper. This is the Taylor juniper tree. They are very popular for landscaping all across the United States. You can buy them in nurseries all across the country. And this tree is a native to Loop County. It was originally found, this species was found about 4 miles west of Loop County out in the hills. And now this is at Chadron State College. I went to Chadron State, go Eagles. Okay. They're planted there. It has the little sign that tells about the Taylor juniper down here. And then also, if you're in Lincoln visiting our state capitol, the Taylor junipers are on all 4 sides of the state capitol. Again, that's an asset. Yeah, it's a tree, but it's an asset. It's something really exciting for us here in Loop County to be like, hey, you know about that tree? That's from my county. Lastly, we have this is my mom here in the middle. This is a great community member here, Carrie. We're at the Nebraska Community Foundation's annual event, and they are starting a trail. We are hoping to get a 5K trail from the center of town in Taylor north that will be 5K out and of course 5K back. And it's in memory of our beloved Mr. Kevin Brown. He was an English teacher, the English teacher before me at Loop County. He passed away of cancer, but he loved to walk and he was a big power walker. And so they are having the Kevin Brown Educators hiking and biking trail. But this is an example of a person. This was an asset in our community. We want him to be remembered. It sparked other people in the community to get involved, other people who love to walk, run, ride bikes, and say, let's do something about it. And let's honor Mr. Brown. He was an asset. Let's keep that going. Okay, step number 2 for attracting and retaining youth. If we want to attract and retain youth, we have to invite them to be a part of the community. We have to invite them to be part of the conversation, even with housing. because I know I'm talking to a group of housing folks here. And that can be scary. I put eek, okay, because even though I'm a teacher for my entire life and I love kids, sometimes I'm still like, okay, but who's the adult in charge? Okay, but who's like still overseeing this, right? They still need some guidance. And that's true. Okay. I'm not just saying go cut them loose and say, oh, yeah, go do whatever you want. Okay. But you have to invite them and you can't just invite them once. That is a big mistake that many communities make. Keep inviting them. Invite them. I'm getting ahead of myself. Let me better go in my order. One thing that we did in our community is we had a dreaming event. Some people call it like a strategic plan or something like that, but dreaming event sounds much more fun. Okay. So when you're marketing, you can call it the dreaming event. And it was anybody who cares about the future of Loop County is invited to this event, and from like high school age on up. Okay, junior high if you want on up. And we want your input. What do you love right now about our community? What do we need to do to make it better? What's your dream, right? What's your dream for this area? If you could close your eyes and picture the town that you want, the county that you want, what does it look like? Dream big. Okay. We'll never get to those goals if we don't start with a big dream. If you say, oh, we want to get a bench in the park, that's great. I too would love a bench in the park, but let's think bigger. Okay. Let's think a little bit bigger than that. And youth, sometimes the things that they say are completely off base, and that's okay because go ahead and put their idea up there anyway. A lot of us, we would rather see community owned and family owned businesses rather than change, just depending on who you are and, things like that. But, the first thing they say is, oh, like, well, we need a Walmart. Well, guess what? Walmart's never coming to Taylor. Okay. But you know what? You put it up there anyway, because then maybe it leads to, hey, maybe instead of a Walmart, maybe there's an entrepreneur in the community, or maybe it's you after you come back that could open up a little general store or something of that nature. So go ahead and put their ideas up there anyway. Grant making is huge. When you are applying for grants and you have opportunities that come across your desk, ask the youth to help you with them. I am a big believer in not just showing them the results, like, oh, look at what our community did. Yay. They need to know that it takes a lot of work behind the scenes, right? That it's not, this grant money didn't just magically appear. There was someone or a team of people behind the scenes putting this together. And if you have more people, makes less work and it makes it often more enjoyable. So invite the kids to see what it's like to actually apply for a grant. Most kids have no idea what is involved to apply for a grant until they're adults, and then they're scared to do it. Just even show them the form. Show them, hey, what do you think we should put in here? I'm not saying you let them do it, but I'm saying you invite them to see you doing it. Actually give them money to complete a project. It may fail, and that's okay. This is going to be different for each community. We don't have a lot of money to give to the youth in our community, but we have done some youth grants where they can get maybe $1,000 to do some sort of small project that they like, the bench in the park, right? They contact the people. Of course, there's an adult in the room that's kind of helping, but it's them. They're making the calls, they're doing the emails, you're guiding where needed, but give them that feeling of, whoa, they respect me. They trust me enough to give me real money to go and do something to improve our community. Whoa. Okay. If you're a kid in the community, that feels like that $1,000 feels like $1,000,000. Another thing that I've noticed lately in our communities is that there are a lot of clubs, a lot of like things that they can be a part of, and kids don't realize they can be a part of it, and adults don't realize they can be a part of it. The last few years, our local Lions Club invited our high school kids to be a part of it. And guess what? When they were invited, they did it. So now we have kids in high school that are a part of the Lions Club that are helping you guys do that where they come to your school, the Lions band comes and they screen your eyes and your hearing. It's like free for all kids. So now some of the kids in high school get to help, dismiss the grades as it's their time, help get them in order of how they are on the chart. We do a weenie roast on Halloween, always the Lions Club does in the park. Now you see the high school kids out there with the older guys in our community helping get the setup all going and keep the coals going for the hot dogs. That makes them feel like they belong and they have a presence and a role and that they're needed. Same thing with the community fund. If your town has some sort of community fund, have a youth portion. They don't have to come to every single meeting, but maybe you invite them quarterly to sit in on what's going on and hear. Again, that's like let them see behind the scenes, like pull the curtain back and let them see. They feel very privileged to get to do that. Referee. We have had a lot of kids start to come back and earn extra money as referees in the area. They still get to be a part of the community. This is a little extra income on the side. They get to see schools. These are all things that maybe youth haven't thought about that you can bring to their attention on a way to attract them or retain them in your community. Invite them to village board meetings, invite them to county commissioner meetings. These meetings are open to the public and hardly anybody goes, right? Again, let them see what goes on to keep your county going and your town going. We're a village. We're technically the village of Taylor, which I kind of love. So, okay. The youth survey, you can get this through the Nebraska Community Foundation. There is a fee. I can't remember what the fee is. It's nominal, but you can give this survey to all of the youth in your schools, in the district, however you want to do it. They will compile all the data and give it back to you so you can get a snapshot of what kids are thinking. Do they want to move back? Do they not? What are the barriers? And you can use the results of that survey to kind of do these things that I've already listed here. What do you need to talk about your youth with? What is missing in the conversations with them? If you can get some teachers to help implement some project-based learning where the kids are out in the community, actually doing things in the community, that can be a home run. I will tell you from experience, if you're a teacher, you can check off about 100 standards in one project-based learning community or project-based learning activity. And so teachers say, oh, I don't have time. Well, it's what you prioritize and it's what you make time for. For me as a teacher, the priority was the community. I want them obviously to learn and become productive members of society, obviously, but I want them to see how they can do that in their own community. Give them a glimpse of what it's like behind the scenes to make a community run smoothly. Because we know and if they see some bumps, if they see some people getting a little aggravated at a commissioner meeting or a village board meeting or something, that's okay. That's reality. That happens. Here are some pictures of examples of how we've done this in Loup County. This was our dreaming event, this blue tarp up here where we identified things in our community and then we had people put their ideas up here. Again, every idea is welcome. This was our flyer, this Taylor and Loup County Dreaming event. This over here is one of in the bottom right corner, there's a young gentleman there speaking. This is one of my students, now former student. He's in college now, but he got up and gave a speech in the summer to the Nebraska Community Foundation Board of Directors and staff. The NCF board and staff was coming to Taylor for a few hours. I made it a point to invite youth to that. Yes, it was mostly adults. And I didn't just put up, hey, this is happening. You have to reach out to them individually, invite them with a phone call, that's best, or if you see them in person, text, whatever it may be. And Hector came and did his speech about the benefits of small town Nebraska. Of course, it was awesome. And now he is connected to those people and has already gotten some opportunities from different people that were in that group and heard him speak. So it was a win-win. The adults loved hearing him and his passion. He is now getting some extra opportunities because he connected with those different people. Over here on the bottom left, this is at the Nebraska Community Foundation annual celebration a couple years ago. You can buy a table. And so our community bought a table, and I specifically reserved 2 seats for former students to come to this banquet and sit with us. They thought it was so fancy. They couldn't they were like, oh my gosh, this is so fancy. Now, these are both now college students. Now they're both out of college now. But at the time, they were in college and they felt so honored to be a part, to come and sit at the table with these community members at this big banquet. And afterwards, they go, oh my gosh, I learned so much. Because, of course, NCF had this wonderful program and showed videos of what people were doing in different communities. It changed their outlook for coming and sitting there for a couple of hours. But again, they have to be invited. So don't ever overlook an invitation. You guys doing all right? Still with me? We're nearing the end here. Okay, cool. This is step 3. Have fun. I mentioned this at the beginning. It shouldn't be a chore or bore to attract or retain youth to your community. If you are seeing it as a chore or something that's boring, then whew, I don't know. This presentation probably isn't going to fix your ailments. We have to be careful what we say about our communities. The days of putting your small town as the butt of a joke are over. Now, we're all guilty of this at some points, and we're all guilty of doing this maybe to the neighboring town that maybe has always kind of been your rival, right, in sports or whatever it may be. But we have to get to a point in greater Nebraska that when our neighboring town succeeds, we succeed. When we succeed, it helps the neighboring town. The days of joking about, oh yeah, those guys over there in Burwell, or the joke was, over in Taylor, oh yeah, I graduated from Taylor Tech, You know what? I'm proud to say I got a wonderful education from Luke County Public School with some of the best teachers in the country that I would have put up against any teacher in the nation. I've been allowed to, because of that, go off and chase my dreams and adventures and opportunities. So we need to be careful about what we say because the kids are listening. And I won't just say the kids, the adults are listening too. Sometimes this presentation can go for adults as well. Okay. Talk the talk and walk the walk. Be careful what you say about your community and how you say it. Lift it up. Man, I love those Taylor junipers. Ooh, did you see that new villager? That's cool. Mara's really on a roll. I'm so glad she's a part of our community. Wow, did you see the kid? He goes a national finalist for the award at school. That's awesome. We must have some good teachers up there, right? Man, our road was so smooth coming in today. I love our maintainer, man. Good for you, Ed. Thanks, right? Those little things that we do of how we talk about our community. But then you got to take the talk into the walk. You got to put it into action. And yes, obviously, we want a great place to live. We want a great place to work, but we cannot discount that we also need a great place to play. We need a great place to have fun. So let the youth in your community see you living your best life in rural Nebraska or wherever you may be in Nebraska. Let them see you achieving your goals, expanding your mind, and seeking opportunities right from where you live. Travel, get out there and see what's out there, explore. And I'm not talking, it can be the whole world if you want, that's great. But I think people overlook Nebraska. We don't know our own state. Come up to Taylor and see the villagers and the lake and eat at Lazy D and see if you can spot a villager and a Taylor juniper on your way up here, right? Explore your own state. when you get out, I always say it helps you be closer connected in. It works both ways. You get to see this incredible world that we live in, and you also get to take back ideas to your community and appreciate your little piece of paradise, which is your hometown. So traveling works both ways. And I, as a traveler, my whole life, that's something I prioritize. But notice I travel all over the world, and where do I choose to live? Right here in the middle of everywhere in rural Loop County. Notice what I said there, middle of everywhere, not middle of nowhere. Be careful how you talk about your town. Okay. So remember, you are an adult. No one is forcing you to live in your community. It is a choice. So by golly, be happy. You have probably all run into these people in your communities that think it's like the worst thing ever that they have to live there. Well, you can remind them that they're an adult. They make the choices in their lives. If they are constantly wanting to drag down the community, I would do a few other things. I would invite them, just like we've done in this presentation for youth. It works with adults. Invite them to be a part of grant making, invite them to be a part of decision making. But if they're still just the cave people, you guys have heard of this, I'm guessing, the cave people, citizens against virtually everything. Okay, they're everywhere. They're never going to go away completely. But goodness, we hope that they can at least have some fun in their community and be happy with where they live because it's their choice. They are choosing that. And here is my key takeaway. If you do not see any good in your community, if you're looking around, you're like, geez, wish we had that. If you're doing the ABCD, the asset-based community development, like, man, I can't think of anything. There's nothing on here. We don't have any assets. Well, then guess what? You can change that because you can create good in your community. This should feel like a relief to you almost. Like you are a creator of good. Make your community into something you are proud to call home. That's kind of the mic drop right there. So we don't need some person to come in and save us. We don't need to wait for someone from the outside to come in and give us the best ideas. We know, but we have to put our talk into action. And if we don't see anything good, then we need to create it. Start small, go bigger from there. Get a group of other people that love your community. It's a lot more fun that way. And this whole slide is about having fun. So make your community into something you're proud to call your home. Here are some pictures of, I started a travel club at the school, but my travel club was unique. It was not just for the school, it was for the community because I realized that there were a lot of adults in our community that had wanted to travel, but had never really done it. And then they were intimidated and didn't really know how to go about it. So I asked my administration, just trust me on this one, just roll with me on here. And they did. And we went on some amazing trips. We went to New York City and Boston. This is us at a New York fire hall. We went to California, to San Francisco and LA. We went to Washington, D.C. So this is where I'm saying it helped. This is a practical thing for your community. If you have somebody that wants to do this stuff, even though we were small and everybody kind of knew each other a little bit, these trips really bridged that gap between community and school, where the adults weren't just seeing the kids play on Friday night or, whatever it was, but they got to sit next to each other on the plane and talk to each other for a couple hours. They got to tour these special places together, create lifelong memories together. We still have little funny inside jokes with all these different groups that we will constantly be linked to. So those adults are linked to the community and those kids are linked to that community because now we come back and we live with each other and we know each other in a different way. I always say the best way to learn peaceful conflict resolution is to live in a small town because you can't just go and just rip somebody out because the next day you got to see them and you might need them to do something for you. So we have to learn peaceful conflict resolution and how to live together. In Loop County, we do a torch run for the Cornhusker State Games. Oddly enough, from North County line to the South County line is 26 miles, which is the same length as a full marathon, 26.2 miles. So we ask people to join. Notice here is a junior high kid, here's a high school kid, college, adults. We have people sign up to run different legs of it. And we have this big baton thingy here. Maybe you can see it. And we pass off the torch and they run a mile, 2 miles, 3 miles, however they want to run. This was about half of the group that we had one year. And it's another really practical, fun way that promotes healthy living and lifestyle. This is totally informal. We just do this ourselves and we tell Cornhusker State Games that we're doing it and they send us t-shirts and it feels cool. But it's just a neat way for us to get together during the summer and have fun. Okay, this next one I wasn't sure whether to put on or not, but if you know anything about the Calamus area, you know about tanking. So tanking down the Calamus River is a blast. My friends and I go every Flag Day. So that's why we have the flag there. Flag Day is June 14th, if you don't know. And yes, I am holding a trumpet there front and center. Brought a trumpet out, played a few little patriotic ditties on the river, and we had a heck of a good time. But we also then afterwards go into our local cafe. We all order supper there. This is an annual event. It grows and grows each year. And it's fun. It's something that people look forward to. It's something that youth can see us doing and go, man, I can't wait to do that with my buddies when I get older. Kids planting some trees here in Taylor. We have an orchard now, a community orchard. Again, practical thing you can do in your community. Look it up. Community orchards. The kids planted 10 trees, apple and pear. They will be fruit bearing in about 2 more years. 50% of that will go to our local food pantry. 25% will go to the school, and 25% is up for grabs of whoever wants it. This is me as teacher of the year. I went to space camp. It was cool. We got to do a mission. But then the coolest part about it was that I got to come back and tell my students about it, encourage them. We did a unit on space exploration, reading some stories, met with Homer Hickam, the guy from Rocket Boys. You know, again, have fun, go chase your dreams, achieve your dreams living from your small town so kids know that they can do it too. Africa, safari. Yep, it's a long drive to the airport, but it's totally worth it. Amazon rainforest. I spent 2 weeks in the Amazon rainforest living with an indigenous tribe called the Sapara people. It was an incredible life-altering experience. And again, if any of you know Dean Jacobs from Fremont, Nebraska, I went with Dean Jacobs. It was an incredible trip. But this is important for our youth to see and other adults to see, and for you to remind yourself, I can chase my dreams. I can live out my goals from right here. And I can bring these experiences back and memories, and it enriches me and it enriches my community. I went to the White House. Out of all the teachers of the year, for some reason, I was selected to have a one-on-one conversation with Dr. Jill Biden, our First Lady, in the White House Library, and it was an incredible experience. It was a complete surprise. I had no idea it was happening. It was all filmed. You can watch the link. It's on YouTube and Facebook, wherever. But my kids, I say my kids, my students, when I came back from that and they saw that video that came out that was posted on the White House's social media channels, a girl said to me, I'll never forget it. She goes, Mrs. Helberg, I feel so seen. I feel so seen. Because what did I talk about with the First Lady? I talked about my students. I talked about my school. I talked about my community. And when I would point out certain things, the kids would cheer when they watched the video and say, that's us. You're talking about us. We feel so seen. So what are you going to do as an adult to make the youth in your community feel seen? Make them feel seen. Talk about your community positively. with people that are big time and with people that are small time. So I put here, this can be you, and the youth need to see this. This is in the Rose Garden. But then this can also be you. It doesn't have to be this or that. Shift your mind to think and both. And that's what we want our youth to think about Nebraska. Well, I can only chase my dreams if I move away, if I make that decision. No, you can live here and chase your dreams. That's my husband and I in our hamburger and hot dog shirts that are a big hit on Flag Day. This is, of course, the Burwell Rodeo Arena, and of course, me in front of my beloved Loup County Public School. So that is all I have. I hope that you can attract and retain some youth. Woohoo!
Thank you, Megan. I'm just ready to jump up and down and cheer with excitement. Hopefully, all of you have been invigorated by Megan's presentation and have some questions for her. If not questions, some comments. I have a couple questions, but I don't want to steal the show or steal the time. So what are you thinking? What would you like to share with Megan from your position in your community, or a question you might have? While they're thinking, Megan, talk to us briefly. You said you're starting to see an uptick in the community and the number of students. Can you elaborate a little bit more on that for us?
Sure. So I graduated 21 years ago, 22 years ago. Whoa, okay. And we had 10 people in my graduating class. 9 out of the 10 have moved back to this area and live within 1 hour of Taylor. It is out of the graduating class that just graduated in May, 5 out of the 6 say they want to come back to this community. Many of them are wanting to be entrepreneurs. They have ideas of starting their own businesses. They have seen how local communities step up and support their small town businesses. And some of them have really great ideas, not just, oh, I want to, like something crazy, like, it's very niche, but they say, we could maybe use a lumber store here because there's a lot of construction going on around the lake, or maybe like a general store. Those are fantastic ideas. We have a kid that wants to come back and start a cafe. We have one cafe in town. It's connected to the bar. We used to have 2, and both of them were able to make it, but those people then eventually retired. So we have a lot of entrepreneurial spirits. It seems like in the last few years of that motivation to come back. And again, they see Burwell doing that. They see some new businesses popping up in Burwell and making it. So that inspires them. So that's that, we can't just bash on our neighboring towns either, because they're inspiring our students to open and follow some of those same paths. But you can, if you want the data on it, I would highly recommend communities do the youth survey, or you can do kind of an informal one yourself. I did that in my own classroom, focused a lot on what does it mean to feel welcomed? What does it mean to feel like you belong? Subtle, but huge difference if you want to get into that with your students and even adults.
I got the goosebumps when you were talking about the student who explained she felt seen. That's a powerful statement and a recognition on that student's part. So you mentioned briefly you started a daycare in the school. Can you tell us a little bit more about the need for that and how that's going?
Yes, as probably all of you know, that childcare is a huge issue along with housing. And we were able to expedite the process exponentially because we did not have to build something brick and mortar. We rearranged our school around so we could have the child care center in the existing school building already. I would really encourage you to look at that for your own towns and communities, if that's an option, because then boom, we were up and running like within 6 months instead of like 6 years. And so in its full, we have 12 kiddos in there. It also provided two more jobs for adults and then a couple part-time jobs for adults. So again, really, it's been a huge boost. And also it just helps our school numbers as well, because once you go to daycare someplace, then you go to preschool someplace, especially where it's right in the school system, you already know the teachers and where the bathroom is and where the cafeteria is. And parents just say, oh man, this is such an easy transition. We'll keep our kids here. Yeah,
Sorry, I
somebody
muted myself. Yeah.
yeah.
Michelle is asking how students and people paid for the trips that you took. Were there fundraisers, or how was that financed?
Most of it is financed through their own money. Um, we did a few fundraisers, but not a lot. And the thing is to plan them early so they have a full 2 years to raise that money. And it really was great for our kids and adults because, like one kid talking about entrepreneurial spirit, he made breakfast burritos, sat outside of the North Side Bar in Burwell. I'm sure none of you have ever been there. And on rodeo weekend, and he got permission from the North Side, and he sat outside. And when the bar closed, he sold breakfast burritos for $5 a pop, paid for his trip over rodeo
Wow.
weekend. So it made the kids get creative. And we were able to, I found some grant money to give out a few scholarships for kids, like $1,000 scholarships. So that also helped.
Okay. Your story about the daycare, Michelle, continues that Lawrence is looking at doing something, and their need for this very thing. And then Sean's referencing Ben Winchester's data
Yes,
about cerebral brain gain. Yes, that's
yes, I have.
amazing.
I've listened to him. When I saw his name, I was like, yes, good on you, Sean. You know, a good
Yeah.
guy there, Ben Winchester. Yeah, his stuff is great.
Yeah, yeah, and then Sean's provided some links for us too. So, Megan, I just want to say thank you for your presentation today. It's been fun to connect with you over the months and watch your story grow. Just as we conclude, just do that mic drop thing for us again. Would you repeat what you said there about,
Yes.
you know,
If you cannot see any good in your community, if you are looking around and you can't find it, create it. You are capable of creating good, and that should feel like a relief. You are capable of creating good.
yeah. And if you can't get up to Loop County in the very near future, I suggest you put it on your calendar for
Whoop, whoop.
early spring, or if not before. It's an amazing experience just to enjoy the sand hills and the Calumet and all that Loop County has to offer. So just want to remind our attendees that Megan's presentation will be on our website in the next day or so, as well as all past webinars. And also to let you know who our speakers are going to be next month. That's going to be Amy Haase and Joe Spitzen. Amy's with RDG Planning and Design, and Joe is with the Nebraska Investment Finance Authority. The Nebraska Strategic Housing Council, I hope I got that in the right order, released a Nebraska Housing Toolkit in July, and they're going to be joining us to talk not only about our own toolkit here in the state, but other toolkits as well that are devoted toward housing. It's a very practical piece, gives you guidance from beginning to end about assessing and doing your own housing things. So, also, as we wrap up 2024, if you know of a housing story in your neighborhood, or if you've read about something, that's how I connected with Megan. I read something that you want to see something featured in the future. We're already starting to think about 2025 webinars. That's almost sad to say, 2025, but we're starting to think about news stories for the new year coming up. So drop us a line, either Sharon or myself, and we'll do the work for you. But we want to hear about stories. So once again, Megan, so appreciate you and the time that you took and your presentation today. If you didn't catch her contact information on her last slide. Can you just give that to us again, Megan?
Sure, I'm putting it in the chat right now is my email address,
Okay.
and my name on Facebook is right there in the chat as well.
Okay,
So
perfect. So feel free to reach out to her and how she has integrated the youth with the adults in the community and to keep tab on their success story that's happening there. So last opportunity for any last comments. Well, thank you to all of you and I just see one new message. So, okay. Just some thanks to you, Megan. So anyway, have a great rest of your day and we will see all of you here again next month.
thank you all so much. Enjoy your fall. Go Big
Thank you,
Red.
Megan. Yes.